So law, very much like medicine, has specialties, and it's an area that I always like one of my seniors who say law is a living beast, right? That is because laws change all the time. It's constantly changing. It's also controlled by precedents. Sometimes an entire case can happen and the decision that is made in that particular matter sets a precedent for how other matters going forward, the decision that is the courts are bound to adopt because it cannot contradict itself. Outside of that, there are several areas of law. Most distinctively, there is civil procedure and there's criminal practice. All right.
Right.
These are the most, you could just break law up into two main parts. So I guess we're going to talk about types of lawyers first, and then we'll talk about types of court. Somebody said a bit more volume. Hope you're hearing me. Right. So types of legal practice, you have the civil proceedings, and that is governed by the practice rules thereunder as to how practitioners are to practice for civil procedure. And then you have criminal. Under civil procedure, you also have non-contentious business practice. That means things that do not require litigation, trial, court, submissions, filing. They are non-contentious and therefore administrative. That's the word that we use to make it easier. Meaning it's a matter of writing, drafting. So things such as your deeds, applications for letters of administration, power of attorney, deed polls, all these documents or creation.
No, Daniel, you just give us a whole set of documents there that some of us may know, but I would like to just kind of give or break it down a little bit, right? So you have a relative who died, and they died without a will, so you would need to apply for
letters of administration.
Letters of administration. Letters of administration is not a letter. Right.
No. Before we reach to the nitty gritty, I want them to understand the overall action thing.
Right. So who does that?
Civil things have to do with social things. Another word for civil, no, of course, if there are attorneys here listening to me saying this, remember, I'm just really trying to just
democratize law.
I'm bringing this down, like I'm breaking this down to be as almost like elementary, right? So civil stuff has to do with anything that affects you socially. So if you think about it, land matters, divorce, debt, contract, you and your neighbor hate each other, all of those things are civil. They are social problems or social disagreements or social arrangements that you may make, and all of that marriage and all this is under social. Child custody, just think about anything having to do with social under civil. Anything that have to do with jail under criminal. Like if you can go to jail.
Well, you know, in Trinidad, we believe we can go to jail for all kind of thing.
Once it's jailable, it's criminal. And there is where police come in. I want to make this very clear because you all seem to believe that police is for everything with law because police
correct.
Police officers are criminal law enforcement officers. Let me say that again. Police officers are criminal law enforcement officers. They do not have a jurisdiction in civil matters, except when there is a court order that governs how the civil matter should be dealt with. And contravening that order becomes a criminal offense and they get involved. But they're still not civil law officers. You get it? They are criminal law enforcement officers. Their jurisdiction, their power is for criminal offenses and or criminally indictable offenses they can get involved with.
So are there social officers? Are there? No, I mean, if there's criminal officers, are there parts of a court that will deal with?
You know who that is? Officers of the court are actually lawyers. So a barrister is considered an officer of the court, an officer of the civil court, and they can be. No, I'm not saying that lawyers are civil police. Don't go and say that, please. But I'm just trying to help you all understand how this. Attorneys at law are also officers of the court for civil matters. They are also officers of the court for criminal matters, but they are not. But police are criminal law enforcement. Police can only enforce laws that are there. They cannot practice law. They cannot interpret law. They cannot advocate for law. Attorneys are can advocate and instruct according to law, but they cannot enforce it. They need a police officer to enforce the law onto a civilian. All right? To understand everybody's role and function within law. Now, a lot of police officers do end up studying law because they're so acquainted with it, but often, obviously, they do criminal law practice, right? Now, so you have criminal and civil, right? You're following me? Now, under civil, there are different, and that's where you get all your sexy types of laws there. It's under civil. I do not like criminal, obviously, so I will talk a lot about civil, right? Civil is very expansive. Crim as well, to an extent, but we wouldn't go in things like judicial review and all those kind of things. We don't really have it locally that much. Our criminal law practice here is kind of basically confined to petty criminal, magisterial matters, that kind of thing, and of course summary offenses, indictable. In terms of civil now, tort is a type of law that a lot of persons don't know about, but a lot of their civil complaints fall under tort law. T-O-R-T. T-O-R-T. Tort law is your closest friend to criminal. Sometimes when somebody irritates you so civilly, or they break, or they or they may impose on your rights, it feels criminal, but it's still civil. What do I mean about that?
So the police can't get involved.
Right. What do I mean by it feels criminal, but it's still civil? Nuisance. Your neighbor is violently making noise or starts throwing rubbish in your yard or comes with a backhoe and break down your wall. These things are highly irritating. They seem criminal in nature. Like, how could you do that? You know, I want to call the police, right? But these things are torts. They are civil wrong that breach your rights within the civil arena of law. And so it is important to critically identify when something wrong has happened to you. Is it a civil offense or is it a criminal offense? This is going to dictate where your remedy is going to come from.
Right. And so in these situations, especially those land things, I mean, I've had experience where people came with the backhoe and they come to scrape down a section of the land, and the police basically all the police can do is say, well, you'll figure it out, but they can't enforce anything on any
doesn't come from the court.
Party. That doesn't come from the court. Now, as we talk in court, there's court and there's court and there's court. And so I want to get into that. But before we get into the courts and the courts and the courts, you said earlier that that lawyers are officers of the court. Who are the other officers, and what are their roles and responsibilities?
So, I mean, officers of the court, I don't know what you mean by other officers. We have administrative officers within the court system. You have court clerks, you have the registrars. I don't think I would confuse people with all of those things today.
Well, particularly the registrar. What is the rule of the and function of the registrar, and how do they relate to you and your matter?
Okay, very nice question. So all courts must have a registrar, right? You have the registrar general. Hello? You hear me?
Yeah. Hello. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So the registrar general is we all know the registrar general department of legal affairs, right? And the registrar's role within our fraternity is to process registration and requests. A registrar, so there's a registrar within the family court. They are the main registrar, and they have all the deputy registrars in each of your courts: magistrate, family, high court, etc. Probate section, civil section, they all have registrars. Now they are managing the the records of the applications made in the various courts. So their function as a registrar in court is to manage cases, file dispositions, have the receipts. Now, a registrar is very important because let's say you are doing a probate matter, right? All your entire application has to pass through the registrar and be checked, as well as the deputy registrars. Let's say you are registering a deed. Your deed has to be checked by the registrar and the deputy registrars therein